Going to carry on with the watercolour project. Sorry, not the watercolour project, the flower project. Those of you interested in the flower project. And I thought today I'd have a go at watercolours. I'll do a quick recap on what I did last week. For those of you that were here. I think pretty much everybody was here actually last week. So last week I did a drawing demo, which was something along those lines. I was suggesting if you're drawing a flower, sometimes doing a few guidelines helps to start with. In this case, a couple of elliptical shapes, and then a few kind of lines radiating out to give you the centres of the petals. So that can help with the drawing. So that's one kind of drawing. This was a quick demo I did in one of my other classes, and this is more of a compositional drawing. And this sort of drawing is really like a little diagram, so it helps me to visualise how a painting might look. So I'm using this photograph. I'm not actually going to use this with watercolour, but using this photograph, I'm thinking, well, that's quite nice, that arrangement in the middle. Could perhaps paint the whole lot, but it's probably enough with just the middle bit. I was thinking perhaps I would leave that one out and maybe move this one over a little bit, and that will give an interesting composition. So when you've got photographs and reference material, you can pick and choose what you include, and by all means move things around a little bit, as long as it makes sense pictorially.
Why you got the lines?
So the lines, well, these lines, so that's just a way of indicating shadow. So it's more like a kind of diagram. So it's not like meant to kind of replicate absolutely what's there. But it gives me a sense of that's where the midtones are. The white paper is the lightest tones, and then a little bit of darkest tone here. So it just helps me to get a sense of what the tonal balance will be. When you look at paintings, most paintings operate tonally more than they do colour. So if you've got something in black and white, you can still read it, it's still an absolutely fine image, and then the colour adds another dimension. But sometimes when you've got so many lovely colours, you can get confused with them, so it's sometimes easier, or sometimes helps to just simplify things to light and dark. And that way you can then see if you've got a strong design. And the design is the really important bit. Quite a lot of these photographs, they're interesting and they're nice pictures, but they're not necessarily strong design. So they're good reference material when you then need to create from that. So I thought I'd just mention that because that's quite an important step. So it's definitely worth doing these sort of drawings. I find when I'm painting, I don't really do these sort of drawings. What I tend to do though is I'll start very, very roughly, maybe on a board, maybe spend 2 or 3 minutes just roughing things out. Then I might think, no, it doesn't really quite work. Maybe I need a slightly bigger board or a slightly longer board. And because I only work these sort of sizes and shapes anyway, like this bit of a narrow one, these are my some of my Scottish paintings that I did over the summer. I'll bring a few of these into shape. But as you can see, I work on all sorts of shapes and sizes. These are about the biggest I would carry if I'm just walking with pictures in my rucksack. I can't really fit them much bigger than this in my rucksack. But sometimes when I go outside, I do work bigger. But I do find that these sort of sizes work quite nicely. So that's that. Anyway. On to watercolours. So I decided I'd use this image. The one I did this morning was more this one, the echinacea, but I thought maybe try something else. And if you want to see a few different ones, you can always look at the videos and see some of the demos from the different classes. Now this I've sketched out already. That way up. And just very loosely, or try to follow the shapes fairly closely, to be honest with you. So it all looks quite abstract, really, but really the first stage would be to, I think what I'm inclined to do is just put a very, very pale pink everywhere. So build this up in layers of wash and just using the watercolours. So I've just got this colour out here. I thought it's a little bit similar to it. No, maybe that's a bit too cool. So that one's called Karma, but I don't think that's quite right. So I'm going to go back to maybe a mixture of magenta and a little bit of cadmium cabin red, which is this one. So these watercolours, I sprayed them all last night, so they're all nice and wet. And it's important to have plenty of paint mixed. What I might start doing another week is maybe try and have the watercolours, perhaps on a table here, we can just gather around. This isn't the ideal way of painting watercolours, it's far too steep an angle. Anybody who knows a bit about watercolours like Anne will agree. So most of it will end up down here.
Yeah.
But the important thing is just get plenty of paint mix. I don't know if you can see that, there's like a bead of paint here. It wants to be really pale because I'm really going for the palest area. So that's just about, and to be honest, I don't think it'll matter too much if I go over the edges because the background, you know, I can cut that in afterwards. So with watercolours, very wet paint and just letting that, just keeping the paper fairly damp. So well, that can be the first wash, and then I can then, while it's still wet, go in with some slightly stronger colour. So I'm thinking some of these little bits here have got a little bit more shadow. Just going slightly stronger, and because the paper's wet already, it doesn't need to be too strong a colour like that. So that's quite nice. Maybe even stronger still. And it's just really anywhere. So I want to keep that bit light. And it's a little bit too purple, so have a bit more red in that. So it's really just using the qualities of the paint, just letting the watercolour do its own thing a little bit. So keeping some of that a little bit light, so that can go a bit darker there though. And I thought it'd be quite fun to try something like this. You know, this is well outside my comfort zone. This is the sort of thing I feel much more comfortable doing, pushing the oil paints around. So this is very much a kind of experimental sort of painting. But I have seen some lovely watercolour, flower painters. One of my students who used to come to my class, a lot of these photos are from her classes, Pauline Grove, and she's a very good watercolour artist, flower painter. So something like that. So but you can see it's not particularly precise what I'm doing, but you can see how, just letting the paint kind of mingle and drift and move around a little bit. So just letting it have do its thing really. And probably I'll let that dry, and then perhaps create some of these sharp, hard edges. Let's get a little bit more paint up here while it's still wet. The thing with having this very vertical is the water will drain off very quickly. So it probably has started to dry. Yeah, that's already started to dry around here. So you need to work quite quickly. Something like that. I'll leave that white. Yeah, I think probably leave that one at that stage. I'll get my other watercolour that I did this morning, which is this one. So that was one of the Echinacea. And just do a little bit of the background for this. So I'll swap round. Because the thing is, you kind of need to do so much, let it dry, and then onto the next layer. Second. I think I'm going to try that. Maybe just I'll have it that way up and just work a little bit, or maybe even that way up, I think. Like that. Right upside down. I found those pictures. I've got this book here, Watercolour Flowers. Somebody gave it, and I thought that was quite nice. So that's what kind of inspired me to want to try have a go at an Echinacea. I thought it was quite a nice, soft look. Right, so do a slightly smaller brush. And so that's the That's the image I was working with. I was just trying that one really. At the moment, it's fairly, yeah, it's fairly strong greens. Let's get some green out. I'm also curious to see what this other person has used. They've actually kept it quite pale, haven't they, at the top there? So that might be quite interesting to try that. So maybe not having quite strong hair, but a little bit stronger hair. So I'm going to use some yellows and a bit of green and a bit of yellow. And I think I might just dampen that area a little bit to start with. I find when you're working into these sort of intricate shapes, sometimes just putting a little bit of clean water there can help the paint to flow into the areas you want it to flow into. Let's see if that's worked. And I like the idea of perhaps having some edges a little bit sharper and some other areas a bit softer. That's probably need it. That's a bit too close tonally, so perhaps I'll go a little bit stronger. Yeah, that's quite nice with some of the lighter greens and some of the darker greens. A bit more of that. And I think some of the art with watercolour is just letting it do its own thing and letting some of the paint drift into other areas. So come back here. And I'm intentionally doing it this way because if I do it the other way, it's just going to run straight into the flower. And let that run out a little bit. And again, I'm just going with the upper brush and some slightly stronger paint in places. And then you could bit by bit kind of work your way around the background. Perhaps that could be the first layer and then perhaps another layer of colour. Another idea might be to use some other colours other than green, which I think there might have here. I can see almost like bits of purple and bits of blue in there. That could be quite a nice approach. So perhaps going with a layer of a palish lilac to start with. We'll work some lilac into, actually that's quite nice, working the lilac into the greens. Yeah, that probably works better than that. Green can be a little, well, it can be a very strong colour, you know, just on that, so breaking it up with other colours can be quite beneficial.
Looks more three-dimensional, that one.
Yeah, so that can be maybe you perhaps let that dry. I'd just go in with some green as well and put that in there. Let that mingle in with the yellow colours. Yeah, so it's not just one solid colour. Perhaps keeping, the other idea with watercolours is to keep some of that light in the paper showing through at all times. So that you don't make very dark, solid, heavy masses, so you keep the nice transparent qualities. Again, you know, I've gone reasonably dark here, but perhaps another, try a smaller brush, and just try cutting in with a little bit of something else there. Perhaps a brown, make some sort of brown up. perhaps, just put a few suggestions. So although that's very dark, I will keep that to just a small area so that, and then maybe just let that painting up so that still remains slightly transparent. And that's going to look a bit like that. I'll just do that bit.
Lovely.
Shouldn't from.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All okay with that?
Yes, Paul, one of the interesting things that some colours are more opaque than others. Like yellow
Yeah.
ochre,
Yes.
it's fairly opaque, whereas some of the other colours,
Yeah,
like
lovely.
blue and crimson, are transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you can, I suppose you can still thin them a bit, right? The rest of it.
Oh yes, but it's
Yeah, I could do that. That's right. Talking colours.
yeah,